Kendrick Lamar's Superbowl halftime show has gripped our collective consciousness, and people from all walks of life are talking about it. What was it about? What are the seemingly layered symbolic messages? Hi, I'm Nwakerendu Waboso, K for short. I'm a graduate student at Brock, but in this case, I'm a fan of rap and hip hop culture. I want to be a part of this conversation. So I sat down with my friend and mentor, Dr. Shannon Kerwin, a professor in Brock's sport management program. In the first part of this multi-part series, we will unpack the insights and layered storytelling of Kendrick Lamar's Super Bowl halftime performance. Hi, my name is Kay. My pronouns are she, they. By way of description, I'm a middle-aged Black woman. My hair is in braids, brown and black braids. My eyes are brown. I'm wearing a black hoodie with some black tights and a sweater.
Thank you. I'm Shannon. I am a white middle-aged woman. My hair is short and brownish, and I have green eyes, and my pronouns are she, they.
So we're here today, Shannon. It's so nice to be able to have this conversation with you. I thank you for your wonderful idea and holding space for us to have this conversation about Kendrick Lamar's halftime show performance at the Super Bowl.
Oh, thanks, Kay. I really appreciate being able to have these discussions with you. We connect frequently in terms of how we see the world and how we see sport in particular. So yes. I'm very grateful to have your time to chat through some of what we see and what we saw through the halftime show, and really recognizing that on initial view, there could be some reactions. And then once you dig a little bit deeper with anything, you start to see that there are layers. And I'd say specifically with what Kendrick Lamar was putting together as an artist in this space. So I'm happy to hear, one, how you absorbed and really experienced that halftime show, and then layering on from my middle-aged white woman perspective, how I saw things a little bit differently at the start and then began a journey of learning through this whole process, for sure.
And I just want to take a moment to say that I really doff my hat to you, because this is the meat and potatoes of scholarship, right? It's challenging yourself to grow, to learn, to reorient, to readapt. And we're going to do that work here today. And I think learning is for everyone. Knowledge is power. It's not to say I come to this with all of the knowledge as well. So I'm excited to build.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for, I love that we have this trust in our space to be able to unpack some of these things, because as you said, learning, and in some ways, in a lot of ways, unlearning some of what I've experienced growing up in a space that's predominantly white allows me to think about things a little bit differently, and being vulnerable about thinking about things differently. And I really feel that I can be vulnerable in this space, and I doff my hat to you for allowing that to be how our relationship exists.
Absolutely. And for me, growing up in Nigeria, being Nigerian and then moving here, it's a different frame of orientation too. So I'm reframing and recentering all the time and renegotiating as well. So we have that in common.
Yes, we do. Absolutely. So I would love to hear through your eyes of what was happening. And we'll go sort of through the chronological space of that halftime show, just to say what was happening. And at times I'll jump in to ask questions and even identify where I'd not seen what you were seeing and why that might be. And I'd love to hear that story from your perspective.
Absolutely. So again, you said we're going to start chronologically as the production performance unfolded. I'll start off by saying I'm a fan. I am a fan of hip hop. I am a hip hop enthusiast. I have been since I was a teenager, making those choices about what kind of music I was going to listen to. So this isn't a bandwagon jump here. I just want to qualify. Like, I've been a fan all along. And there was something so special about Kendrick Lamar's performance, in my opinion. Being a fan, I will acknowledge my bias at the offset. But there was something so magical, I think, that we're going to unpack here. There was just so much, so many layers, symbolism, double entendres, points that challenged the way we think, points that were a little bit unsettling, but led to deeper exploration. So, like, let's get started.
For sure. Can I jump in real quick just to say, setting the stage for our listeners? I mean, I think good storytelling allows the person listening to feel like, oh, maybe I feel the same way, or maybe they get absorbed in the story. And so maybe the listeners are thinking, okay, I resonate with Kay. I'm a huge Kendrick Lamar fan. And the world of hip hop is something that you sort of embrace. And to give context, again, for the listeners, myself, in my home, my children love Kendrick Lamar. And we're so excited for Kendrick Lamar and SZA to be on the stage together. And then we were watching and engaging the halftime show with a number of other families, white families, who are sport families, but aren't necessarily engaged with the hip hop community. And so for context, that was the space that I was functioning in. And so as I listened to your recount of what this halftime show meant and sort of the symbolism, I just wanted to set the stage for that was my reality in terms of my first view of that halftime show. Yeah.
Wow, that's super appreciable. So now for me, on the other hand, I watched the Super Bowl, fan of sport, 1000%, watched that halftime show, left the game, happy, go Philly, way to go Eagles, and went off on my own and watched the performance again, like 13, 14 times in a row, back to back, because the whole time I was watching it, I was aware, okay, there are so many things happening here. Some of the obvious ones that jumped out to me were great, but I was aware in the moment that I was missing things that were going on. So just in terms of being drawn and polarized to the performance and the performance attributes, I watched it like I just wanted to sink and revel and stay in that space. And it really felt great.
Amazing. Amazing. I look forward to hearing all of your thoughts.
Yes. So I think it's important to also position Kendrick Lamar as the Pulitzer Prize winner that he is. These are some pretty amazing accolades that, I mean, he's a one-of-one rapper to be also a Pulitzer Prize winner. So we situate him appropriately as he is. He's a giant in the rap game. He is, like he says, prophetic. He's a profound figure that commands so much respect across the industry. So I just wanted to say that off the top.
And I think in our initial conversation, the number of accolades that you listed in terms of his achievements, Pulitzer Prize winner, some of the awards that he's winning, not only for his music, but for his artistry, I was not aware of those things. And you just think this was definitely more than just an entertaining halftime show. This was a story. This is a person that is trying to really, really unpack some hard things that are happening right now in the world.
Agree.
And all of that to say, it's because he has this foundation of, wow, he's much more than just someone that is engaged in hip hop. There's so much more.
Absolutely.
And I didn't know that prior to our conversation.
Maybe it's a good place for us to center some of that stuff. So acknowledging that some of these metrics have shifted since we started this discussion, but at the time of writing this, Kendrick Lamar was the first male rap artist and one of two male artists, the other being Prince, to simultaneously chart multiple albums in the top 10 on the Billboard 200 this century. He's also the first rapper to earn over 1 billion streams as a lead artist in America in 2025. His halftime show at the time of writing had surpassed over 63 million views. I know it's much more than that sitting today. By comparison, last year's Super Bowl amassed, I think the metric was 42 million views in 11 months. Yeah. So wow, Kendrick Lamar was the most streamed artist on Spotify for 4 consecutive days following his Super Bowl performance. He's the first rap artist to surpass 101 million monthly streamers on Spotify. And tickets for him and SZA's Grand National European Tour were reportedly majority sold out on the first day as tickets became available. So, I mean, his impact, his global impact, I think, is appreciated and well felt. just along these metrics and all of the other accolades that he's amassing and compiling along the way.
Yeah.
Like, he's just incredible.
Yeah.
So I can't tell you how I felt when the show opened. We see this like game board. So we're like, okay, like speaking into currency, the world loves gaming. Okay, something about this. And all of a sudden, Samuel Jackson pops out and introduces himself as Uncle Sam. I had goosebumps. I'm interested in how you felt about that. I definitely have thoughts as well.
Yeah, at first, so recognizing right away. So we know through the notes, through our discussion, like Uncle Sam is certainly a very prominent white icon in terms of what was happening historically in the U.S. So immediately recognizing Samuel L. Jackson, immediately understanding, okay, now he's taking on the role of a white man. And what does this mean? But in the space, everybody was kind of like, why is Samuel L. Jackson there? What's happening? And we were very confused. I'd say was the first piece to say, what is he doing there? Without really truly unpacking what that might mean in terms of the symbolism. And then I know we talked about this, and immediately that came to mind was the idea that he was in the Django Unchained.
That's right.
And I didn't put together what that might mean, but that was a part of our conversation as well. And I know that two of the other folks at the party I was at had said that. But that was really it. We just thought, this is interesting. Why is Samuel L. Jackson there? And then it cut out. And so never truly unpacked what that meant.
So interesting. So on the other hand, when I watched it, huge grin, immediately understood there was a play on, there's symbolism, there's a play on words happening here. For me, immediately when I saw it, I thought, okay, he says, welcome to the great American game. So we're thinking, okay, Uncle Sam reflects the United States, their government, their people, their citizens, a Black Uncle Sam. So the double entendre was not only him standing within the role and saying, okay, if this is your symbol of America, then we are America too. I am America. But also like Uncle Sam Jackson, it's somebody we know. He feels like he's a welcome guest in all of our homes when we're watching his movies.
Yeah.
So that part too, but reflecting that Black Americans in America, to a certain extent, life unfolds like a game, and a game that we're not always in control of. And I say we in terms of how I connect to the Black experience, because I'm African, but in the global North, we are all Black. There's no nuance. There's no, parsing out. You're this kind of, you're that kind of. So we're all Black and we all share the same experience. And so I really, really connected with this sense of life is a game that we don't always have the most control of. I also connected with, as I watched it again, those time and time over, it was also this sense of, as the performance unfolded, we appreciated more that Sam Jackson's role was, he was like the great assimilator, the voice of Black American assimilation, what it takes to be Black in America, the code sheet, if you will, the cheat code. Yeah. He represented for me the voice of that cheat code.
Can I say that right there? Yeah, because that's where we come back to, and the folks that I'm sitting in the room with, and myself even, like, we're comfortable with Samuel L. Jackson. So as a white community of party goers, we're watching this and going, oh, okay, we know him. We can connect with him. And to strategically, to your point, choose him for one, this symbolic, okay, we're going to put a Black man into an iconic white persona, but we're going to make white people comfortable with it because they know Samuel L. Jackson. I kind of felt that now that I look back in terms of people sort of sitting in, okay, we get, and myself too, I say people, I'm sitting at this party feeling the same way, saying, okay, I know Samuel L. Jackson, like I can connect with that. And so I know that's not necessarily the idea of this code switching, and I know what we sort of see and hear about in our literature when we're talking about some of the reactions to anti-Black racism and what happens in our sport community. But at the end of the day, this is a big signal in terms of saying we want to make you, the white folks, comfortable. And I think that is a big piece of, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Kay, about the experience of someone who is Black living in Canada or the US to say, I want to make you, white person, Shannon, feel comfortable. And that was a huge piece. Looking back, I didn't feel it in the moment. I didn't know what was happening. But now when I think back to how people felt in the room as Samuel L. Jackson came on, that could be, I know it was my experience. I won't speak for everybody else, what that comfort level was.
That is really interesting. Thank you for sharing that. Just taking a minute to absorb it. But, you know, the interesting thing for me that highlights is how intentional and thoughtful the production of that performance was. Because, yes, you had to almost call a scenario where people would be comfortable with what he was suggesting. Yeah. And I do think that was a masterful way to do it. It really gives us insight into how highly intellectual this individual is in a way that is at odds with the general stereotyping of who a rapper is, what a rapper talks about, what he represents. I think Kendrick Lamar, there's a tension there in terms of who he is and what he represents, and it being not the traditional stereotype of a rapper.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that part was really interesting. But I think the part that can't be overstated in the opening part of the show is the messaging there is stop playing with Black lives. Stop it. Black lives matter. I mean, we are scholars, so although this is very interesting, then we reflect on some pretty real stuff, like the fact that, you know, young Black children and boys more specifically are typically considered to be up to 5 years older than their age. So anybody looking at them perceives them as up to 5 years older than they are. When we talk about police violence and law enforcement being threatened, you know, typically that child you see who looks 18 is 13 when we're discussing that. So this is very real for us. And again, what a wonderful way he conveyed his point of view. But then when I started to do some research, which is a wonderful thing it caused, I think, most people to do is want to learn more, like we said. Then we understand, like you talked about, that Uncle Sam was a real person in terms of Lamar's attention to detail. He was a real meat-packing Sam who fondly coined the name Uncle Sam, an enduring meme in the American landscape. So for him to take that narrative back and say, this thing that you guys love so much, I'm going to place myself in that. And you're going to see me in that role. Oh, it's a lot to digest.
Yeah.
It's quite a bit to digest.
And as you're sort of thinking about this, and what I'm like going through my head as well is the idea you say, like doing your research. And I think that was part of some of the commentary immediately following the halftime show was, I wasn't entertained. It was boring. I'm not sure what was happening. And I heard some of that too at the party that I was at in terms of the consumption of the halftime show in the moment. But I think one of the things, if we're talking to the audience and thinking about what we're asking of folks with this conversation, is to then do a little digging. This is part of my journey after the halftime show was I started to see things in terms of what Uncle Sam meant, what was happening with the dancers. And that's something I know we'll unpack in terms of the configuration and who they were, and even just the background of the folks that were all in front of us on that stage. Coming down to, I know we'll get to it later on in the discussion, is this idea of even Serena Williams' role. And to unpack the layers, you had to actually do a little bit of reading and go into even academic articles around the history of what happens in Black America, and to do that work to then say, wow, this was more than just a halftime show. This was a clear message of storytelling and narrative of a brilliant man, to your point. And all of that took a bit of work, because my initial reaction was a little bit, I'm not sure what's happening in this halftime show. I don't know this performer well. I couldn't hear it. There was some issues with even the volume of the microphone. So we were all sitting in that space in the area that I was in, a bit confused. And then sort of like, not sure about this performance. And then afterwards, wow, how incredible. 2-3 weeks forward now coming out, I feel like I've learned so much more, but it took work. It took me to say, you know what? I don't think I know everything that I should know in this space. So the challenge to folks is if you didn't see the messaging, do a little bit of reading, maybe think about what this means outside of the context of the world that someone is sitting in. And it still might not have meaning for them afterwards, but at least do a little digging. Yeah. I think that's part of it. When you say this idea of doing a bit of research and like engaging with what things mean beyond just what you're seeing.
I agree with you because the therapeutic outtake is that we're more knowledgeable.
Yeah.
You're more learned. You can stand in conversations, novel conversation spaces and contribute meaningfully. And like, that's a good thing, I think, on any day of the week.
Absolutely.
You have been listening to Waboso and Shannon Kerwin of Brock University. This episode is part of a series unpacking the cultural and historical significance of Kendrick Lamar's 2025 Super Bowl halftime show performance. Theme music is provided by Music Go Beats, used under Creative Commons License 0. Produced by the Podcast Learning Network, Faculty of Humanities, Brock University, as part of the Black History and African Heritage Month at Brock. Executive produced by Allison Innes and sound editing by Andrew Camacho.